Now, I won't claim to be Shakespeare's biggest fan, but I think that it would be reasonable enough to say that I'm in the top 500. Actually, scratch that, I might not be in the top 500, but I'm definitely in the top 5,000. Or at least I'm in the top 200 under the age of 30. Regardless, I'm a pretty big fan. I have two posters on my wall relating to the topic. I have one of Shakespeare that my roommate's dad made for me. We call him Rave Shakespeare because he looks like that. And I have a poster of the show that I would like to talk to you all today about. Cymbeline. Now, Cymbeline is an odd show to talk about, mostly because most people don't know it exists. It's one of those shows that isn't performed as much as it should be, and used to be performed a lot more. However, I'm a huge fan, and there's a lot of reasons for this, but let me tell you a little bit about the show first. Cymbeline is very loosely inspired by the historical events of King Cymbeline, or Cunobelline, who was a king of Britain a long time ago, when Rome was still occupying Britain. Like Macbeth or Julius Caesar, it is in fact based on historical events. However, such a fictionalized version that you can't really be sure how much of it lies in any truth. And while it may not be as fictionalized as Macbeth, because Macbeth has witches, Cymbeline is pretty fictionalized. Cymbeline is a mostly ensemble show, however there is one clear main character, and that's the daughter of Cymbeline, Imogen. Imogen is the princess, and she defies her father's will by getting married to somebody who is slightly below her social standing. His name is Posthumus Leonatus, however I will be referring to him as Posthumus for the duration of this video. Cymbeline, the king, finds out about this marriage and banishes Posthumus. He wants Imogen to get married to her stepbrother, who is the son of the new queen that Cymbeline has recently married. The queen does not have a name, however her son's name is Clon, and he is really stupid. The queen is very evil and her son is really stupid. They are both really great politicians. Do with that knowledge what you will. Posthumus decides to go to Italy for his banishment, and he is hosted there by a friend of his father's, Philario. Posthumus doesn't have any parents, by the way. They both died right around his birth. His father a little bit before, and I think his mother died during his birth. Also, he had two brothers, which also died. Philario hosts Posthumus in Rome, and in Rome, Posthumus encounters Iachimo. Now, Iachimo is an Italian man, and he's a little bit skeevy. He bets Posthumus that Imogen would cheat on him, and said, "I bet I can sleep with your wife." And Posthumus said, "That is so stupid. My wife loves me. She would never." So they do a bet. Another really important thing is the fact that Posthumus bets his ring. Now, this is a ring he received from Imogen right before he was banished, and in return, he gave Imogen a bracelet. So Iachimo heads to England. In England, Clon is bothering Imogen, and that's pretty much the extent of what's happening over there. Iachimo comes to England, and he tries to make advances on Imogen, however she denies him. So Iachimo hides himself in a trunk stored in Imogen's room, takes notes about all the objects in her room and anything that makes it distinct, is a complete creep watching Imogen sleep, and then decides to steal the bracelet from off of her wrist. He also notes that she has a mole under her left breast. Iachimo returns to Italy and tells Posthumus what he has seen and what he has supposedly done. And Posthumus doesn't believe him at first until Iachimo tells him about the mole and shows him the bracelet. And despite Philario's best attempts to convince Posthumus otherwise, Posthumus swears that Imogen has betrayed him. Posthumus then sends a letter to his servant Pisanio in Britain, who is currently being tasked with making sure Imogen's okay. Pisanio receives this letter and is in shock that Posthumus would want to kill Imogen, And so he decides to hide this letter from Imogen, but gives Imogen the letter she's supposed to read. Imogen reads Posthumus's fake letter to her that says he wants to meet her in Milford Haven. Pisanio and Imogen set off to Milford Haven, wherein, and near their arrival, Pisanio finally reveals that Posthumus asked him to kill Imogen. Imogen is pretty on board with this because she doesn't understand why this is happening, and she is incredibly upset about it. However, Pisanio refuses to kill Imogen, and instead gives her some boy's clothes and tells her to hide out in Wales for a while until things have simmered down and he can figure out what to do from there. Then he gives Imogen a vial of medicine from the queen. He says that it is something that will cure her and make her feel better in any sort of bad condition that she may be having. However, this here is actually a sleep potion like one in Romeo and Juliet that would make someone appear dead. No one knows this except for Cornelius, who made the potion, and Cornelius isn't a majorly important character, but that is his name. And he gave this to the queen because the queen asked for poison and Cornelius was kind of suspicious about that. And then the queen gave this vial to Pisanio, and I forgot to say this earlier in the video. There's a lot going on. Anyway, so the queen tells Pisanio this is a medicine, so therefore Pisanio tells Imogen it's a medicine. The queen thinks it's a poison, but it's actually a sleeping potion. At this point, we're about halfway through the show. Cymbeline gets very upset that Imogen is not around, and so does Clotton, and the queen's actually completely cool with it because either she's gone now and isn't an issue anymore, or she's dead, which the queen is also happy about. Either way, the queen's happy about it. Clotton, however, is incredibly upset about this and decides that he's going to follow her. He forces Pisanio to show him the letter that Posthumus sent to Imogen, the one where he says he's going to meet her in Milford Haven, and demands Pisanio bring him some of Posthumus's clothes. And so, in Posthumus's clothes, Clotton sets out to Milford Haven. Near Milford Haven, Imogen comes across a cave, and in that cave are living 3 men. Belarius, who is currently going by Morgan, Guiderius, who is currently going by the name of Polydore, and Arviragus, who is currently going by the name of Cadwell. Arviragus and Guiderius are completely sure that their names are Cadwell and Polydore. However, they are actually King Cymbeline's sons that were kidnapped by Belarius because Belarius was very upset that he got banished. So Imogen runs into her brothers and their adoptive father. No one is aware of any of this having any sort of significance because Imogen is currently dressed up as a boy. They decide to take in little boy Imogen and treat her well. One day, Imogen isn't really feeling that great, so she stays in the cave while everybody else goes out and hunts. Because she isn't feeling well and she's been told that she has this medicine and it's been given to her by someone she trusts, she takes it. At this point, Clotton, the evil queen's stupid son, arrives near the cave where Imogen and Belarius and Arviragus and Guiderius are. Clotton isn't doing too hot, but he runs into Guiderius, and Guiderius isn't Clotton's biggest fan because Clotton threatens him. So Guiderius goes and beheads him. Belarius, for some reason, knows who Clotton is, and I think that is actually Cymbeline's biggest plot hole, because I don't know why Belarius would know who on earth Clotton is. I have no idea how Belarius would know who Clotton is unless he regularly takes trips into England or, like, into civilization and asks people, "So, what's the news? Is there anything new on the kingdom? Can I come back yet? My name's Morgan, not Belarius, definitely." Upon Belarius, Guiderius, and Arviragus' return to the cave, they find Imogen, who is asleep. However, they believe that she is dead because she appears dead because it's a Romeo and Juliet sleeping potion. So they take her outside and lay her down next to the beheaded Clotton in order to bury her. Imogen wakes up and she sees the body of a decapitated, bloody man wearing the clothes of Posthumus. Imogen thinks that Posthumus is dead. She feels betrayed by those who took her in, and she is devastated. At this point in time, an Italian soldier comes by. Now, this Italian soldier is Caius Lucius, who is on his way back from the court of Britain, wherein he has declared war on Britain on behalf of Rome because Britain hasn't paid their taxes back yet. Now, this is a scene that happened significantly earlier. However, I once again forgot to mention it. This is the scene where we find out that Cloten and the Queen are actually pretty good politicians, and Caius Lucius finds little boy Imogen crying over what she thinks is Posthumus's body. Caius Lucius agrees to take her in, and Imogen, because she can't say, "Oh, this is the man I love," for fear of blowing her cover, says this was her master. And then we go to war. So here's a couple things before war starts. The Queen is getting kind of sick because she's very worried about the whereabouts of Cloten. And yeah, that is pretty much all the information you need to know going into war, other than the fact that it is a war between Britain and Italy. Posthumus, who we haven't seen for a pretty long time at this point, reveals that he is fighting for the Italians, and he feels so bad about having the proof that Pisanio killed Imogen that he is going to war so that he can die. Now, at a certain point, Italy is winning, and he decides, well, this is stupid. I'm going to join the British people so that I'm going to die. Now, important things happen while Posthumus is dressed as a British peasant and helping fight for Britain. Guiderius, Arviragus, and Belarius decide to join the fight, and they help free Cymbeline, who has been captured by Italian troops. Posthumus also helps them free Cymbeline. In another skirmish, Posthumus and Iachimo fight. Posthumus sees that it's Iachimo and decides to spare his life. With this, the British are winning again, so Posthumus decides to become Italian again, and with this, he gets arrested. While he's arrested, he falls asleep and he has a dream that his dead parents and dead brothers visit him, and they pray to Jupiter that Jupiter may help. Jupiter comes in and goes, "You're my favorite little guy," and drops a prophecy on Posthumus. Posthumus wakes up. He's freed from prison by the British to, I guess, be there for the announcement of British victory, which somehow happened. And at this announcement, everybody is there. Now, this is 5-5, and Act 5, Scene 5 is always the biggest scene in any Shakespeare play, and you can always feel it coming. Cymbeline, the king, announces victory, and everybody else comes in and is like, "Huzzah!" And all the captured Italians are there, and British people are there too. The Queen is announced to be dead. She dies off screen, which is very unfortunate for her, but is probably a benefit to everybody else. Also, the Queen's evil deeds are revealed, which include her hating Imogen and her trying to slowly poison Cymbeline, which just didn't happen. Cymbeline knights Arviragus, Guiderius, and Belarius, and, honors them for freeing him. Posthumus reveals himself as the unknown British soldier who helped out. Posthumus breaks down, and he is completely distraught because he killed Imogen. Imogen steps forward and she says, "Peace, my lord, here, here," and she just wants to, throw herself on the man she loves. This is her husband. She's married to him, even if he's banished and she hasn't seen him in a while. And Posthumus hits her, and she falls. And Pisanio rushes forward, and he's like, "Oh my god, no, 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 no. This is actually Imogen."
Hi, Editing Julia here. This guy took a break from the rave to let me know that I forgot to tell you all in the original recording of this video that Posthumus does pick Imogen back up off of the ground, and, he hugs her and they supposedly have a happy ending, but that's something that is pretty unresolved.
And upon the reveal that that's Imogen, Belarius and Arviragus and Guiderius, they're like, "Oh my god, are you that little boy?" And she's like, "Ah ha ha, yeah." Iachimo admits to the horrible things he has done to Imogen, and that it's also his fault and he repents for lying and unwanted advances towards Imogen. Everybody is talking about, like, oh, what happened here? What happened here? People are like, hey, where's Clotton? And Guiderius is like, I killed him. And Cymbeline is not happy about that, so he orders the death of Guiderius. Belarius steps forward and he says, no, these are your sons, and I brought them up, and I'm the guy you banished. And you would think Cymbeline would be like, die? But he doesn't. He accepts this, and he's only mildly upset about it, all things considered. At this point is when the soothsayer gets called forward to read the prophecy that Posthumus was given to by Jupiter in his dream, and is basically like, yep, everything's good now. At which point, the Italians and the British shake on it, and they say, well, let peace reign, or, in the words of Cymbeline himself, ne'er was a war did cease, ere bloody hands were washed with such a peace. So that is a very, very long summary of Cymbeline. And like all Shakespeare plays, there's just a lot happening in them, so it's always hard to summarize them concisely. And I apologize for this. Let me tell you about my favorite parts of Cymbeline. Number one, Cymbeline has various titles. Cymbeline is titled simply Cymbeline. Cymbeline is titled Cymbeline, King of Britain. And Cymbeline is titled The Tragedy of Cymbeline. I think that this is fascinating because most of Shakespearean tragedies end in various deaths. This one doesn't. It has almost a happy ending. It has some ambiguity to it, but it has a type of happy ending. Because it doesn't end in a wedding, it can't be considered a comedy, and it certainly isn't a history. So when people categorize this, they alternate between categorizing Cymbeline as a comedy and as a tragedy. Some other fun facts about Cymbeline. Cymbeline is the only Shakespeare show that is named after a character wherein the titular character does not die. If I am wrong about this, because I can definitely be wrong about this, there are many Shakespeare shows that I haven't seen and I haven't read. The ones I do know, I just know a lot about. Let me know if that's wrong. If you're aware that that is wrong, please let me know. This is knowledge that I think is incredibly important. However, as far as I'm aware, it's the only one, which is odd. You'd think Cymbeline would die at the end, especially because the queen had been poisoning him, but he's fine. He has the last word. Furthermore, Cymbeline is not the main character. He's essential to the story, but he doesn't play a huge part in it. Cymbeline is a little bit like Shakespeare's greatest hits. You have an evil queen trying to gain power. You've got that sleeping potion. You've got women pretending to be men. You have infidelity, accusations, trickery, treachery, random supernatural elements, a soothsayer, war, a wedding, decapitation. A woman dies off stage. There are so many things that Cymbeline has that a lot of Shakespeare plays also have those. We don't know directly when Cymbeline was first written or published or anything like that, but we do know that it was produced at the latest in 1611. That is certainly later on in Shakespeare's career, so I guess he looked at what audiences liked and he just went for it, or maybe he found out what he liked and went for it. Imogen is such a special character to me. I know of all the people that I know that care about Imogen, I'm not even the number one person that I know who cares about Imogen. That would be the person who played Imogen in the production of Cymbeline that I was in. And they did an incredible job. She absolutely nailed it. And she might be part of the reason why I care about Imogen so much. I think I understand why so many scholars think that she's one of Shakespeare's best characters. My reasons and the scholars' reasons are pretty different. However, here are some of my reasons of why I love Imogen so much. She's very headstrong. She has these incredible incredible lines in defiance with her dad. In her very first scene, where Cymbeline says that she should have married Clonton, and she says, "And blessed that I did not, I chose an eagle and did avoid a puttock." That is really just so good, and it's such a line, and she just constantly has this incredible way of saying things. At a certain point, she tells Clonton that she does not care for him, and then not two lines later, she says, "I hate you." A line of Imogen's that I particularly like is the following: "I did not take my leave of him, but had most pretty things to say, ere I could tell him how I would think of him at certain hours, such thoughts and such. Or I could make him swear the sheaves of Italy should not betray mine interest and his honour, or have charged him, at the 6th hour of morn, at noon, at midnight, to encounter me with orisons, for then I am in heaven for him. Or ere I could have given him that parting kiss which I had set betwixt two charming words, comes in my father, and like the tyrannous breathing of the north, shakes all our buds from growing." Imogen just has these beautiful poetic lines, and she's clever and she's interesting, and you really want to root for her because so much of her life is not in her control. And yet she's the main character, and you follow her around, and if performed right, Imogen can break your heart. Because, I mean, I was in the show, and literally every single night on stage, Imogen broke my heart. And while I was rehearsing for the show, I would go to bed with Imogen's lines stuck in my head, and I didn't even play her. It's so sad and so beautiful, and yet somehow she still goes forward and she still survives, and she has this incredible story wherein she gains family. It's incredible. She is such a cool character, and I really love her. She means a lot to me. Furthermore, Imogen, when she decided to take on a name as a boy, she was accused of adultery, and she was said that she was a strumpet. And she was really confused about this because she has no idea what the hell is going on. And so when asked for her name when she's dressed up as a boy, she says Fidel, which means faithful. Because she's faithful, and she's faithful, and she's faithful. And I think that's what the scholars liked about her, that despite everything, she was still loyal to everyone that she cared about. And I think that that is incredibly honorable. The production of Cymbeline that I was in was the best show I have ever been in. I think that is a pretty objective statement of it being the best show that I've ever been in. It was an incredible experience, and it's an incredible show, and even though the story is a little bit weird and wacky, if you're genuine enough about it, if you love it, then I think that it can be done in an incredible way. I love Cymbeline, and I think that more people should be aware of the story and should be excited about it, and more people should do it. It is in the public domain. I would say go out, find a production of Cymbeline you can watch, read the show. It's incredible. The only thing I would not recommend is do not watch the movie, because the movie is bad. I have not watched the movie, however, I have been given reports that the movie is bad. It is about a motorcycle gang. Hopefully that's enough to drive you away from watching the Cymbeline movie, but I can't stop you. Who am I to stop you? Just know that those who have seen it, who are into the show, aren't the biggest fans. If you don't necessarily want to watch the show, or you don't want to read the whole script, it's understandable. Cymbeline is Shakespeare's third longest play, behind Hamlet and Coriolanus. It's about 300 words shorter than Hamlet and about 100 words shorter than Coriolanus. It is still a pretty long show, so I understand if you don't necessarily want to read it. I would definitely recommend it, and I think that it would be really cool if high school English teachers started teaching this one, or, I mean, college professors too, but I want it to be unavoidable. I want people to know the name of Cymbeline, and more importantly, I want people to know the name of Imogen. I know that this is just me talking about a show that I love, but I think maybe that's ultimately just what I want to do on the internet, is talk about the things that I love. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye for now.